All right, it is 6 p.m. on this September 3rd, 2025. I'll call this Farmville Town Council work session to order. Welcome all those in attendance in the chambers and those who are tuned in online. Thank you for being here. I'll recognize that we do have a quorum present. Ask Ms. McKay, do a roll call, please.
Mrs. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Mr. Parrott?
Here.
Mr. Yolen?
Here.
Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Thank you. Before I do the adoption of the agenda, I would interject with an amendment to the agenda. I believe we have the Farmville Downtown Partnership here who are unable to be in attendance next week at our regularly scheduled council meeting. So we're going to extend a neighborly gesture of goodwill and have them present after our declaration of personal interest in the adoption of the agenda, if everybody's amenable to that. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Make a motion we adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Does anyone have a declaration of personal interest they wish to express at this time concerning anything on the agenda? Not hearing any. Move to the Farmville Downtown Partnership presentation.
Go ahead. You go first.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Emily Gant and Jake Romaine from FDP. And we're coming here today to get permission from you all to pursue a grant for the 2026 year that'll be in the downtown district. So essentially, we are looking to apply for a T-Mobile Hometown Grant. They will give us up to $50,000 and require no match in return. And essentially what we want to do is transform the pavement area of the Highbridge Caboose Plaza into an interactive play area for the community. And basically it would be railroad and train themed, since the caboose is right there. It would include things like life-size chess, hopscotch, and other interactive games that could be, again, painted onto the pavement in an attempt to, one, make the area look a little bit better, and then two, get people to spend a little bit more downtown time. And it's a free, again, amenity for the community and local visitors. So do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, all that we're looking for from the town council is just a letter of recommendation for this. We can also send out an email with all the renderings and pictures that we've done and send that to y'all as well. And any questions for us?
Any questions at this time for FDP? I think an email with renderings would be beneficial for sure, sent to either to Mary or to council members individually. She can disseminate them if you send them to her, though, and that way they get to everybody else.
And one key part of this that was left out is taking down the stage after this holiday season.
That would be a key component of that,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's a key component.
Are we,
Is taking down the stage and the awning, and the other goal is to repaint the caboose.
That being said, how is that going to affect us for Christmas and stuff like that with our tree lighting and things like that? Not really.
We only use it once a year at this point, and it's for tree lighting. And so I feel confident we can put one that's portable in the same spot for that event itself.
Quick thing, do we still have the information kiosks? Are those at all functional? They haven't been for a while, right? Are they?
The kiosks, 2 of the 3 kiosks are still in the downtown district. We have looked into revitalizing them. That is an ongoing discussion, but it is ongoing.
So I will say a part of this grant would allow for some signage improvement that does fall within the means of what the grant will allow you to do. So if that is something that you all would like to see, and we can incorporate it into the Play Plaza, it is in the same area. And so I do know that the grant would cover an expense like that if that's something that you would like for us to pursue.
So the only thing before council is just a letter of recommendation for y'all to seek that $50,000 grant from T-Mobile, correct? Correct.
Well, that you all are in agreement with this concept, then I would issue the letter, yes. But just wanted you to have all the information of what all it has to do with. That's why I asked them to
Time
give the
frame?
presentation.
The grant is due on September 30th, but the project would not start until probably the first of the year and would be completed by next September.
So being in agreement by next week would be helpful for y'all.
That would be great.
Any additional questions at this time? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is the finance report by Deputy Town Manager, Finance Director, Ms. Julie Moore.
Good evening. You have the July charts and reports in front of you. This is the first month of our new fiscal year 26 budget. When you look at revenue to budget, we're not at the 8%, which would be the 1 month of 12 months of the budget. And that's due to, as we've talked about in the past, the budget assumes that things are received every month equally. But like we don't bill real estate taxes but once a year. We don't bill business licenses but once a year. So until those things get billed, it's going to always lag behind some. Another example is like the transportation fund. We get those VDOT money every quarter. So it assumes we're getting it monthly, but we won't get our first payment until the end of September. When you look at revenue compared to prior year, all of our revenue is above prior year in all of our funds except for the transportation fund. And that's because last year we sold a bus. So we had those proceeds and we haven't sold anything this year. So that's why it's a little less than what it was last year. Expenses to budget were below 1 month of the budget. And then our expenses compared to prior year, overall, we're down compared to last year. All the funds are down except for the general fund. It's slightly above last year, and that's there's 3 things that we've paid for this year that we didn't have last year at this time. We've made a payment on the fire radios. We received 2 police vehicles that we've paid for. And then the dispatch grant had an expense that they paid for that we got reimbursement from the grant, but we didn't receive that till August. So we make the payment for that expense in July, but we got the reimbursement in August. So those 3 things is why we're slightly above last year at this point. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This summer camp, I noticed, was only $255 in revenue. Is that normal? I thought our camp was very...
It is, but summer camp, that gets like, they pay for that in like April, May, and June. And then the camps actually take place in June, July. So all that's prepaid. So all of that was in like June.
Okay.
And if you went back to June's revenue, you would see
Okay.
it there.
Okay. Okay, I got you. All right, thank you.
You're
for
welcome.
clarification. Thank you.
Any additional questions at this time?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is discussion, general obligation bond, public hearing and status. Mr. Davis?
Mayor, members of council, you heard from Davenport last month at your meeting regarding the bond scenario. You have that memo from them from last time. What I need to know next week, if you can, is the current plan is for us to meet with the rating agencies on September the 22nd and 23rd. We would need to have the public hearing on it at our regular meeting in October, which would be October the 8th. However, the PPA for 45 days will not be in until October the 15th at 2 p.m. So what I would suggest if you would consider is to move forward with the public hearing on the not to exceed price. I will tell you that the PPA solicitation, it's online, you're welcome to look at it, it states in there that whatever is proposed cannot exceed $13 million for the building. So that allows us to go with what the advisor, Ted Cole, provided you all at the meeting for the not to exceed last month, at your last month's meeting. And then we will be in line to move forward with all the other steps of the process.
Any questions at this time?
Quick one. You said not to exceed $13 million. He said not to exceed 16.1 or something like that. Does that include the fire engine? This is only about the building itself, correct?
Correct. So the PPA is for just the building. That's one not to exceed, that the proposers cannot, in other words, they can't send us a response to our solicitation for a building that's 13.1 or 14. But the not to exceed for the public hearing is for both combined. So that's at 15.2.
You said the public hearing on track to be October
The 8th.
8th.
If you all agree next week to move that direction. If not, it'll just push everything back. In other words, we wouldn't be able to potentially sell the bonds in November, or it'd be late November and December later before we close. Key is we need the money by January.
And we need it by January, or all of it, or, I mean, I know we got to pay for the fire truck because we've already agreed to do that, so.
Yeah, we need that 2.1 and some change.
Any additional discussion at this time?
If by some chance it gets held up and slowed down and after the first of the year, I'm just hearing from, I had somebody say to me today about home interest rates and stuff like that, and they're thinking that interest rates after the first of the year are going to come down significantly. I know that's just a possibility, but if by some chance it gets held up for whatever reason, you know, will we be able to secure a better interest rate later? And sorry, hold on, let me two-part that question. And can we figure out a way to get the fire truck taken care of if we had to hold up for whatever reason?
So the first one, I would say a home interest rate and what our interest rate is on the bond is two totally different spectrums. I don't think that's going to have any effect. I can ask Ted that in a phone call. As far as paying $2.1 million, I'll ask Julie if she has an idea.
And
You may not like the idea.
I know, but before I go I know that I'm just threw home out there, but I'm just talking about the Fed rate and stuff like that, and what the Fed rate is doing, and what will the Fed rate do after the first of the year, when I'm hearing that it might be dropping after the first of the year, which would affect these rates. Am I correct?
I don't know that that's a TED question. I wouldn't. But on the payment part, actually it would, we have ARPA money that we have all agreed we're going to use for the UV treatment. But that ARPA money has to be spent by December. If we have not, if that money is still sitting in our checking account come December 31st, the government's going to ask for that money back. So we really pushed the UV, but it's going slow, and part of it's because they've ordered the lights and everything that they need, but it's going to take time to get that stuff in. So our options are we prepay the contractor by the end of the year, which isn't something that I recommend, because first off, I don't think the auditors would appreciate us prepaying that. Or I think we would have to run this by Ted too, but I think Ted mentioned that we could pass a resolution where we use that money, we redirect that money to pay for the fire truck. And we could pay that in like November, December. And then once we got the bond money, we could pay ourselves back for that and then redirect that money to the UV project. So
But at the end of the day, we have to have the bond to pay for the truck.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and I get that, but I don't like paying a contractor before they do at least some of the work either. That is not a good option for me personally, and
I agree, we shouldn't prepay.
I'd just say I like that thought process as far as if we could do it. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but that sounds reasonable to me to possibly be able to. Plan B. Yeah, Plan B to where we don't lose that 245. I think it's critical that we not let that get away from us.
No, he can work the bond for paying ourselves back. We know that. It's different language than what we would do if we were doing the two together, if that makes sense. Because instead of paying for something, we're paying ourselves back. So there's, from the attorney, that the bond attorney, it's different language that he has to put in the sale so that the people purchasing the bonds understand what they're purchasing. It all has to be out in the open of exactly what this money is being spent for.
So do we need to ask the question of whoever and then come back and what's the process here? Sorry.
Yes, I can have that information for you next week so that we can make a decision on the public hearing and all that.
Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Mr. Davis, I think you're up again on discussion of sidewalk ordinance. Proposed ordinance number 241.
So there was, obviously the Planning Commission had a meeting 2 weeks ago or so. And the end result was a deferment and having more information. And I'm going to let Ms. Austin share with you a summary of that and just seeking what council would like to do.
Good evening. Just give a brief update. So we had 3 community members spoke in opposition of the sidewalk provision. Their concerns were the cost burden to developers and that the cost is not shared with the town. During the Planning Commission deliberation, commissioners deliberated on questions including the flexibility of the provision, meaning was there a way to ask for a waiver to the provision, those kinds of things, and then how this provision affects single home builds and what was meant by being developed. They had questions of whether this provision affects new or existing developments. Commissioners spoke on the comprehensive plan calling for pedestrian safety and a pedestrian-friendly town, as well as encouraging affordable housing. Commissioners voted to defer action on the case pending a broader conversation with town council during the comprehensive plan review, and they wanted to focus on the cost burden to developers and the implications of the sidewalk provision. That was all I had for an update.
Any questions for Ms. Austin?
I think it could be a lengthy conversation as far as with us versus the Planning Commission, if that's where we're headed, is to try to find a solution to the problem, if we even have a problem. I'm not sure.
I had a discussion the other day, and the discussion was the ordinance as it stands, and as an example, I used a big chunk of land out on Germantown Road, and I said if somebody decided they wanted to cut 7 pieces off the front edge of their property that are on Germantown Road and butt up against the bridge that goes over 460, And they wanted to keep one because they wanted to have an access for all the rest of the property behind it to be able to create an entrance maybe for a subdivision. If they wanted to cut off those 7 lots, would they have to put a sidewalk in based on our ordinance that we currently have? And the answer is yes. And it's, in that situation, there's a sidewalk basically to nowhere. There are lots of situations in town where that would apply. Are we really ever going to have sidewalks all the way out Germantown Road? Are we going to have sidewalks on Plank Road, other areas? I mean, Millwood would be a nice place to have a sidewalk someday, but are we ever going to have, I would love to see that, and know that's been discussed in years past. So I think and I was suggested to do some research, and I did some research. So there are other ordinances for other communities, and I looked at Abingdon and I looked at Ashland and things like that. And one of the things in their ordinances was that there is an out, and the out was, I got to find it. I got it highlighted, but give me a second. It's is that, however, where warranted, the town council may waive these requirements. So in some situations in town, we could make the choice as to whether those requirements are waived. Some of them said the town manager. Some of them said possibly the town planner or the comprehensive, or Ashley's position. Sorry, I cannot keep it straight in my brain. And I apologize. But it gives somebody the choice to be able to waive that. And there were other ones where there was a sidewalks are required when an existing sidewalk is within 50 feet or 100 feet. So I'll use the example of High Street. The sidewalk ends, and then there's a big chunk of land just past it that is owned. And if they decided they wanted to split that up in lots, would we want to have sidewalk there? Well, yeah. I mean, there's already a sidewalk right beside it. So there's nothing in the ordinance that speaks to that. And I mean, I know we need to do a overall, like Tommy was just saying, that we need to look at it overall and talk about it in the comprehensive plan. But I really think that we kind of need to fix this one right now or soon, so that people can have some sort of way to avoid having to put a sidewalk that serves zero purpose to anybody and never will. So that's there are other options for sidewalks. So you can do sidewalks. What about a walking trail or biking / trail that's asphalt, making the road wider so that you can put that walking, biking, skateboarding spot next to the road itself. I would love to see other options, not just we have to have a sidewalk, because I'm not sure whether it is only downtown or whether it's downtown and any sidewalks. Sidewalks, I don't think you're allowed to ride a bicycle on. I don't think you're allowed to ride a skateboard on, and I can't remember whether that's down, and I'm not going to ask you to speak to that. I can't remember whether that's just downtown or everywhere. Well, that kicks those people into the street, which makes that less safe. And if it was an asphalt path or something like that, bikes and skateboards would be allowed. So just that's my 2 cents in that. I would love to see this fixed a little bit so that it gives us a way to make an exception, and then we can look at it in a much broader sense in our comprehensive plan and have a sidewalk plan and stuff like that. So that's what I got. Thanks.
I want to piggyback on John. So let me say this. So why do we have to make it mandatory for people to have sidewalks in subdivisions as we're going forward? I mean, why do we have to do that?
That was council's direction.
Okay, so let's divert for a second. Just hear me out. So why can't we replace these redundant sidewalks with what they call shared use paths? It's cheaper. It's asphalt. It's cheaper. It's walkable. It serves for joggers, strollers. It's walkable. wheelchairs, bicyclists, it's cheaper. I mean, let's think outside of the box right now, moving forward. And we put it on one side of the street, 10 to 12 feet. We give it the option to do that. Let's move forward on this, and let's offer new developers the incentive that will go in and do it. Let's offer new developers the incentive that will work on these taps, sewer taps and water taps, for people to come in and want to do business with us. Do you see what I'm saying? So, why do we have to put this sidewalks in stone? Let's do something different. Let's make it amenable to everybody instead of doing the same sidewalk. Somebody talk to me and tell me what you're feeling on this.
I would be happy to respond to that. One, the problem with the paths is that I don't believe that's funded in part of our VDOT money that we get annually, or quarterly, actually. That only applies to sidewalks that are 5 feet wide and to VDOT specifications. And that goes towards the town's ability to maintain and upgrade and fix the sidewalks that we already have. That also applies to the streets. I look around and I think that the sidewalks are necessary because I go into other towns and places, cities, Lynchburg, Richmond, Charlottesville, even new developments right there have sidewalks. And I think it adds to safety, but also community. When you have sidewalks, you're more likely to walk places, not get in your car to go places. You're going to see your neighbors, you're going to walk your dog, you're going to spend time socializing. I think that the other paths that you were mentioning, well, let me first address that before we talk about, what's the word you used, incentivizing? Remember, that's public money that we're spending to help a developer, a private developer, put these things in, which might be amenable, but that's not part of the ordinance. We can't do that until we have an ordinance in place, and then we can sit there and talk about incentivizing or subsidizing the developers. So we have to have an ordinance in place if we're going to go forward with sidewalks in the first place. I have approached the subject of perhaps in new developments having one side paved and sidewalked. Again, VDOT standards, and suggested that that would be applied towards the side of the development that service the most doorways or people or pedestrians. So in this case over there on Lane Street, instead of having a sidewalk that goes nowhere but in a circle, the developer could have chosen, or should have chosen, in my opinion, to put it on the sides where the most people would benefit from it. Again, I go to larger towns and we're trying to grow. And I think that these kind of infrastructure improvements add to this sort of community that we're trying to build. And remember, the people pay for these services. We work for the people. All this stuff that we're doing, we're spending their money. So developers and private businesses come in and they see an opportunity to build a house, to build a variety of houses, to build structures, new technologies available to them, and they're looking to gain profit here. And I want that to happen. But I also want to see an investment in the community and the people who live here and are going to live here much longer than those houses are probably going to be there. In the avenues, we've got sidewalks and all around town, sidewalks that are nearly 100 years old. Sidewalks have been used in cities for thousands of years, literally thousands of years. There's a reason why you have these things in place, and there's a uniformity to it. And then there's, a way they're supposed to be designed to again, deal with floodwaters, deal with big storms that we've been having recently, divert the water into the right places to go. So sidewalks, in my opinion, are kind of a community building, town building instrument that we have at our disposal, a permanent infrastructure that the developer puts in place and then we take ownership of and we maintain. We haven't been doing that too much in the past. And we all know, everybody here knows, that we've been kicking the can nationwide. We've got a huge amount of debt, and we haven't been reinvesting in our infrastructure, not just in this town, but in this nation. At one point, we have to look towards the foundational, fundamental stuff that we're going to pass on to the next generations and the generation after. And this is one of those pieces that's important to me for building this town and growing this town. I agree with John, there are some places where we don't need them and we would never consider putting them. And there should be the variance and the opportunity to have that conversation with the developers who come to us and say, hey, this doesn't make a lot of sense. More than willing to work with them, 100%. But we do have to have an ordinance in place, again, that takes advantage of the VDOT funding, the state funding, that's going to allow us to upkeep and maintain these sidewalks and fix them as they fall apart.
I guess that begs a question for Dr. Davis. Is that the case with the VDOT funds? Does it only cover sidewalks literally? And I'm not asking for an answer tonight. Does it only cover sidewalks literally? Or are we able to use some of those VDOT funds for our walking trail that we currently have around Wilkes Lake? And so it wouldn't cover that stuff. Okay, I mean, that's a good thing to know. But like Mr. Yolen said, I think we do need to have an out, because there are places that are just not great, and we do need to have some sort of, in the future, what we're going to do to fix the current sidewalks. Because I was going down, and just for an example, things that are being worked on as we speak. There are mailboxes in the middle of sidewalks. There are light poles in the middle of sidewalks. There are street light poles in the middle of sidewalks, and I would love to figure out a way to get those taken care of. I'm working on the mailboxes right now. I don't know how far I'm going to get, but we shall see. But that's one of the things that I would like to see, is to see where we need to have a plan for not just fixing this ordinance to give somebody a way out, because there are places where we just don't want sidewalks or don't need them, and not don't want them, but don't need them necessarily. But that's where I see we need to be right now, is fix it so that there's a way around it. And then we can look at the big picture. As I've had discussions with folks, a long-term sidewalk plan in the comprehensive plan, a long-term transportation plan. These are ideas and thoughts that have been given to me. But I think we need to fix this one for the time being.
Okay, one, Mr. Hardy, the comprehensive plan is not a legally binding document. Whatever we put in there is something that we're hoping to achieve. The ordinance is the binding document, and we have to have the ordinance in place before we can talk about alternatives or variances. And the same way it works with the zoning situations, where people want to put awnings or fences or things of that nature that might not be completely within code, but are reasonable. We can be reasonable. But first, we have to have the ordinance in place. It's one step and then the other. We can't go backwards. We can't do the variance first and then the ordinance.
We can build, correct me if I'm wrong, we can build a waiver into the ordinance so that there's an option for council to grant a waiver to a developer if the sidewalk is not going to connect to anything. I mean, that's easy.
So yeah,
Correct.
let me
Yeah.
clarify some of this, if I can. The comprehensive plan is a guide. And so the comprehensive plan currently does discuss pedestrian access and sidewalks in the comprehensive plan. As far as a more robust, and I don't have the exact words that you use, Mr. Hardy, as far as like a transportation plan or those types of things. I mean, those are in addition to that comprehensive plan. So that would be something separate that, yes, that could be worked on and those types of things. As far as the ordinance, staff worked with legal counsel after the last issue that we had with the original of the loophole that Mr. Yolen spoke of in it, dealing with being able to do a portion on that development that Mr. Lapp's doing. So the direction that was given to me at the retreat was to close that loophole. So we worked with legal counsel to do that. And that was the ordinance that is now, has been before council, before it went to the planning commission that everybody reviewed. And then it went to the planning commission for public hearing. It was at that point that it was obviously at a public hearing. There's discussion, right? And also hearing from the public. So if what you're hearing from the public and what the majority of council wants to do is change this ordinance up, again, we can do that. We just have to, we need clear direction of which way you want to go and have it done that way before we have it sent back. You'll review it again. We'll send it to the planning commission again. As far as the question about whether it's, I'm sorry, Ms. Amos, what did you call the?
Shared use paths.
Shared use paths. If I sent everybody an email of what that funding can be used for, I think it was last week. There's a link. Type in, you can find out everything that we can use it for. That's why, I provided it to you all, is that it's easy to use as far as what we can use those funds for on arterial, collector, local, those types of streets. But yeah, we'd be happy to work with Mr. Elder and his office to clean whatever you all want in this. If it's you want it to say shall but has a way out, we can do that. Just some clear, definitive area of what you're looking for to encompass it.
I hate not having a way out for developers. I truly do. I feel like when we are implementing ordinances, that the developers should be at the table helping develop these. You know what I mean? They should be giving their 2 cents in developing these ordinances on what they would like as well.
Or give us ideas of.
No.
The whole point of the public hearing, but you can go see.
Then we're going backwards. Then we
You can
hear it
see-
and then we change our minds. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
And this brings up.
Right, this is the whole reason the PUD got killed was because people tied it to a developer. So now I'm confused at what we're doing.
I sort of agree with you, Sally, in reference to us going back. But, and this is on another note that some of y'all know what I'm gonna say. We used to have committees that this stuff would be discussed in. and be discussing for hours upon hours, and we'd meet 3 or 4 times. And it seems like now we're making decisions, and then we're going back and changing our decisions after we make them, which doesn't make sense. We should have that sit-down time.
I agree.
And I understand that we're being open, we're being transparent, but I wish there was a way we can go back to those at least 3 committees to have that time to sit down and discuss this the right way. And we usually discuss at least 2 or 3 meetings and have all the answers and present it to council. Now we're going backwards, we're chasing our tail. Because we'll make a decision within a half an hour or hour here at these meetings, and then something will come up afterwards, or somebody will think of something afterwards, and then we'll come back and then we have to change something. And we're just wasting time that way, in my opinion.
Yo, we can do work sessions on topics more than one time. Like we could, if there's a topic of sidewalk, you can be on it. What I heard, and I think Mr. Reed brought it up, was everybody can attend committees, but you're having 3 people make a recommendation and not hearing everything that staff is saying. Whereas in this setting, everybody's hearing what staff has at the same time. And that was the whole reason for doing away, was my understanding was committees, was that for the whole body to hear the same information at the same time and not just 3 individuals.
Well, why does it have to be just staff giving information to committees? Why can't we have this is something I was thinking about, is it doesn't have to be developers. It could be community members that is made up of, and this is just for this one situation, community members that are, come in and be able to have their input in the, I was never part of the committee, so I don't know what happened in the committees. And is there back and forth with the public in the committee meetings, or is it just staff and the town council? Is there a way for us to have a back and forth with people in the community and get ideas? Because it's like, hey, we want to do a sidewalk ordinance. Okay, here's a sidewalk ordinance. But I would love to, and my fault for not asking, hey, what are some options? What are other options? Can we do a wider street? Like I was saying, a wider street. Can we do I love the rolled curb and gutter. It's, instead of having a straight curb, it's this nice rolled curb. I think they're beautiful. You can put the driveway anywhere you want to on the lot. The only thing that gets affected is sewer and water hookups. But I mean, I would love to see, and me personally, I would love to see options, because I have done some digging, and I'm not done digging yet, and I would love to have more. But yes, as Mr. Hunter says, we're chasing our tail, and the ordinance is there. The ordinance is there right now that they have to put a sidewalk in. And so I think we need to fix that to give people an out, as Mayor Vincent said, and give a waiver and figure out how to get that in. And then we can sit back and say, okay, bring us all the options. Let's have a sit down and more work sessions about it. And then we can redo that ordinance the right way the first time, where it benefits everyone, including Sally's options of, we need to have some skin in the game as far as like the tap fees. We discussed that in the past. And I know that's our constituents' tax dollars, but I would love to see my tax dollars be reinvested in the town in those ways, which will improve the town also. So that's me.
And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that we're not trying to do our due diligence, but when we had the separate committees, and I understand why Mr. Reed wanted to change it to make it more transparent, but I think the committees could be more transparent. But our focus, just like when it was the finance committee, our focus was on the finance. And we took that time to go through each and every thing instead of just taking this little bit of time. And I know we can have other meetings, but we never request other meetings because it's taking time away from everybody else. So it's just a thought, and I'll just leave it at that.
I'll say, as the charter states, my one wield of power is committees. I'm amenable to committees. but I would request that they happen here, where they are public and where they're recorded. Because yes, Mr. Hardy asked, he was not privy to committees before, and while they were public, they happened downstairs in the town manager's, in the conference room downstairs, which is a much smaller room. The public didn't show up that often because it was a small room. You had to walk down a small hallway to get there.
But it was also in the middle of the day.
It was also in the middle of the day. There was no audio and visual component, in which I think that is a transparent aspect that I'm in favor of. But I've got no heartache over council members deciding they want to meet more often to talk about things. You know, when it comes to researching these topics, I mean, this is a small town. I can't walk my dog without having somebody tell me what they think about what's happening here. You know, it's just the nature of the beast of where we are. So I get those meetings quite often. But as Mr. Parrott can attest, because he and I have joked about it before, this body has long revised. I mean, it's the nature of what we do. You make decisions, and it's the thing I lament more than anything else, is nobody shows up when the decisions are being deliberated. They show up after the decision's been made, and then they have something that they want to say about it. And it's like, that's when we end up revising. And that's, you know, whether that's a failure on our part to engage appropriately. I mean, I think local government is often tasked with that and burdened with that. But it's also, like I told people at a meeting today at 11:30, if you show up and sign up for a public comment period and voice your opinion about something, and there's 15 of you, it's pretty powerful and often moves the needle quite significantly. So that is also a mechanism. But yes, if the council as a whole decides they want to do committees again, I will gladly wield that great power of mine to form committees and assign people chairmanships and chairwomanships, of course.
I'm sorry, Dan, Mr. Dwyer, that brings up another point of, you know, we have public comment and then we vote on it. And I can tell you, I've heard from multiple people, they don't feel like their voice matters because they come, we have public comment at our council meeting, and then and this is just what I've been told by constituents, that their voice doesn't matter because they come to the public comment, if they come to the public comment, so they don't come, but if they came to the public comment, we vote on it 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes later. Some folks feel like their voice is not being heard. And not all the time. I understand that, and I know it's not all the time, but you know, sometimes it's just is there another process? Can we look at other processes for, we have a public comment this week and this month, and then next month we vote on it, because it gives us a chance to get more feedback and think about stuff, and sometimes it doesn't work that fast. So but that's just spitball.
Well, there is, of course, a discussion session before a vote, but I follow your logic, but I'm not sure what the fix would be. I personally was delighted the day we eliminated committee meetings. Yes, it's possible that I could have made some of those. Some of them maybe I couldn't make some of those. However, I make these. And this sidewalk issue is complex. You know, it's a sidewalk, but it's a complex issue. It seems to me, rather than going back to committees, we could have another work session, but I like this forum. I like being in on everything, and I like it to be in a meeting I'm at anyway. And I would also just agree with what seems to be the, perhaps even a majority of folks. I'm aware of some lots up on east end of town, and it's a street that has no sidewalks on it. It's one-way street, and it'll never have sidewalks. But yet a sidewalk, if you were to purchase some lots that might be for sale there, you'd have to subdivide it, which would require sidewalks. Again, sidewalks to nowhere. I would have a problem with that if we don't have an ability. I see that differently than perhaps a development that has a tract of land that is off of a street. And you're talking about building a large development with multi-homes and all. I see the sidewalks being important for that. But not sidewalks that are going to lead to nowhere. That's just running up the cost of construction. Yeah, so anyway, that seems to be a common sentiment, and I would agree with that.
I'll make one last comment on this. I think we all are trying to do in our minds what we think is right. From what I'm hearing from people tonight, I think we need to address this so that we can have some flexibility when the time comes for somebody who's doing a development or building a house, to where we can have the wiggle room to say, oh, we don't really think you need a sidewalk here, or yes, you do need a sidewalk here, as a group and as a body, and take it on a single case basis. I know it will drive us crazy before it's over with, beyond a shadow of a doubt, but why not just take it on a case-by-case basis and see whether or not it's relevant? And if it happens to be that somebody's bought a lot that has no sidewalks within whatever, 200 yards, whatever, then I don't think it's applicable. But yet, in other case scenarios, I think it's very applicable. So therefore, why not give us that voice or power to be able to take a case by case and decide?
You're talking about an open work session, correct?
Absolutely.
Well, it's just building a waiver process into it, right? I mean, I'm not speaking at a school here. That seems like a fairly common thing, that there's a ability to have a hearing and waive the sidewalk mandate if it's a sidewalk going nowhere. Make a sort of subjective decision.
Sure. And it's just up to.
Seems like is the majority of council in favor
it's
of
just
adding a waiver component to it.
The key is who does the waiver. Do you want every one of them to come to council? Do you want it to be the zoning administrator? I mean, Mr. Hardy said he read ordinances, that was different. So that's the key, is who's going to do the waiver, and who.
I would recommend this body.
And so.
I would start out with this body as well.
And if we get overwhelmed or it gets to be a nuisance, then we'll revisit it again. As you just referred to, we'll go back and forth.
So let me ask this question. The ordinance, the way it's drafted now, do you like it except for adding another piece? Not the current one, the one, not the one that's on the books, the one that's being deliberated, I should say, to be clear, by the Planning Commission. Is that good at the way it's written, except for adding in there and making a change that there is the ability to have a variance, and it would have to go, I don't have the exact language, but Mr. Elder will. Is that something you would want to see at the next work session that we could talk about? So he could add that, and then you go over it again and see if there's anything else, and you can share it with whomever your constituents are.
Recommend that, yes, so it doesn't go back and forth, back and forth.
If we could keep it simple and leave what we've presently got as far as language is concerned, but just add to that the possibility of a case-by-case variance depending upon the situation.
In which we could work with the developer and, again, have variables that are going to meet the needs of the public as well as the developer, and work as a partnership sort of thing like that. Just allowing them to petition and say, can we have a little breathing room? Can we have a little bit of variety here? As long as the body, in my opinion, this is just me, but as long as we're still talking about a sidewalk, a VDOT specific 5-foot sidewalk, that's my only concern, is because then we've got the cohesiveness of the rest of the town. Everything doesn't look like a patchwork like it currently looks right now, and we build forward. I would like to see that in there, if that's okay. Basically, what you have in there right now is perfect, just add the variance.
It looks like it has the word required. Is that problematic? Number 2, it looks like to me says, for subdivisions involving the construction of residential lots, sidewalk sections shall be required along the frontage of each residential lot. I mean, that's what we need to do something that word required. Is that the?
Well, let's let Mr. Elder think about that as far as if we can leave required by adding
The
the
component to
variance
waive
piece.
the, yeah.
That they do have the option later on in like 0.5, like number 5 would be added. I'm just using this as an example, not definitively, is that upon request by the applicant developer, that there could, before the town council, there may be the eligibility for a waiver. That's not legal terms, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we can work with him to see, I think, do you feel comfortable with what they're discussing tonight, Gary?
Was it really Mr. Elder or is it Ms. Douglas? Who are we talking to?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a complicated issue, as you guys can tell from the amount of time we're devoting to it. You know, the issue is from a legal perspective, when you guys pass an ordinance, what that ordinance is supposed to do is to provide some clarity as to what our law is on this issue. And essentially, if you guys are saying, well, throw it at us and we'll see what happens. You know, I don't know. I mean, part of my job and part of what you pay me to do is to try to draft laws that ultimately keep us out of a bind. You don't want anybody coming before council and saying, well, I think I deserve a waiver. I don't think I should have to have sidewalks on this project. And maybe you say, well, we disagree with you. We think you do need sidewalks. And then they say, well, on what basis? You know, why do I have to have them? What, there was a project over here, you didn't make them have them. Why do I need them? And if we look at our ordinance and there are no answers to that question, then
Right.
that's how we end up.
We can find some ways to quantify it though, like connecting to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just leave it totally open-ended and say, we look forward to seeing your application. We're going to make a call. That's not giving anybody any guidance. So
Sorry.
Yeah.
So we can get specific, though.
Yeah,
And that's what,
I think what we can do, and you know, in looking at the ordinance, I made a few notes, and I'm not going to say that this is how I intend to draft it, but I think you could say something to the extent of shall require under the following circumstances, or may require, and items that would trigger that requirement include, but perhaps are not limited to the following. And you at least put in some things that say, you know, if you meet this set of circumstances, you need some sidewalks. And that way we at least give people some guidance.
Would that be like a minimum number of homes?
Could
in,
Yep.
Or the one I mentioned earlier, sidewalks required when an existing sidewalk is within X number of feet.
Yep, those are the sort of things I'm thinking about. And honestly, I mean, you guys are the ones that have to make that. I can draft it any way you want it. But you need to make that call. And that's actually, I mean, frankly, you know, my perspective of looking at where you guys are sitting, that's tough. I mean, this is not an easy issue. I think you guys have actually raised some great points. I mean, from a legal perspective, yeah, I agree. A sidewalk to nowhere is kind of stupid. You don't need a sidewalk in front of 3 lots. That's kind of dumb. But, you know, in thinking about this, what you guys obviously need to think about is, okay, well, you know, you kind of have to look into the future. Might there be developments that might be interconnected with other town sidewalks at some point? And you know, I mean, this is a complex issue, which is, given the simplicity of a sidewalk, is somewhat surprising. But yes, I think from my perspective, you've got to come up with some parameters to include in the ordinance. You can't make it a free-for-all. And that's just what you guys are going to have to debate, is what are those parameters? What are the rules?
Sidewalk committee it is.
I think that might not be the world's worst idea.
Why not,
Well, would
why
that-
not let Mr. Elder come up with some ideas and present them to us, and then we can digest them and see which ones we like, which ones we don't, or just,
What we're paying him.
Well, I mean, I think what I could do ultimately, is give you guys sort of I don't want to use the word necessarily a fill-in-the-blank ordinance, but I could give you some language that basically says, as I mentioned, items that would trigger a sidewalk requirement shall include, or, but not be limited to the following, and you guys come up with, what is it that triggers the mandatory need for a sidewalk?
We also have a planner too.
That's a pretty good thing, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we've got the tools in place to come up with these things, and I have not looked at other localities' ordinances. I mean, I actually found it somewhat interesting, some of the things you were saying. It sounds like there's some ordinances that are sort of all over the place as to who makes these determinations and how they're made. But from my perspective, I like clarity. So let's give developers and people in the community some clarity with our ordinance. Let's not leave it wide open.
I welcome that suggestion, because I think maybe us reviewing each and every one could be a nightmare.
Well, you guys need rules. You need to know, hey, if we're looking at this thing, what's our rule book? So that's my perspective.
Well, is this something the planning commission could understand, that we're looking at parameters and let them do their research?
They could, yeah.
Get them engaged on this?
And utilize the planner, our town planner, for
Absolutely,
sure.
yeah.
Have them have conversations and give us some options that try and meet the needs of the people.
That all sounds good to me.
Thanks, Mr. Elder.
Thank you, guys.
I do want to make one more comment. State code, as of July 1st, changed that all subdivisions have to be approved within 45 days of submittal. So it would be a pretty tight turnaround to get subdivisions before town council for an approval within that 45 days.
It's from application.
From application.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that coming down the road. Any additional discussion at this time concerning sidewalk ordinance? Sounds like we've got a lot on the plate with the sidewalk ordinance. I hope the planning commission was tuned in.
I will give them an update in 2 weeks.
All right, next item up for discussion is the roadway enhancement at East 3rd Street at Persimmon Tree Fork Road and Millwood Road. Mr. Davis.
Just wanted to give y'all some notification that VDOT is working with the county and the town, even though it is in town. The topic was brought up about an enhancement at East 3rd Street at Persimmon Tree Fork Road and Millwood Road for the purpose of when the data center goes in Persimmon Tree Fork Road, that current intersection will not function properly.
So is that a foregone conclusion?
Well, yes. We've been working, VDOT has hired a consultant, WSP. They've worked up several scenarios, so staff has been talking with them about those scenarios over the last several months. And VDOT and the county and the town have narrowed that down based on their studies, WSP studies, of the different configurations that would be best for that function. And so now it's down to 3, I believe, Jez. And it's time for a community input meeting. And so that will be tentatively, that citizen input meeting is going to be scheduled for October the 9th. It's a Thursday evening from 5:30 to 7. And that will be at the Moton Museum. Nice area, middle of town, not a VDOT office, not a town office, but somewhere people can come from the community. So we'll be putting that out as we have that definitive, but put that on your calendar because it is most likely going to be the date and time. And then you'll be able to see those alternatives and hear from people in the community. So will the consultants, obviously, and take that information.
So they will be open for comment at that time?
Yes, it'll be the ones where it's just free, open from 5:30 to 7. There's no presentation. You go to the easel, you look at it, you ask questions. There's somebody there to answer your questions, those types of things.
Any additional discussion at this time?
I would just say I encourage people to pay attention to that. That's got some pretty significant ramifications. I think it's probably warranted beyond a shadow of a doubt. From what I can understand, the traffic flow from that hit park will be significant, as well as the construction period time, which is the bigger picture of this, because from what I can read and understand, it's approximately 5,000 people that come to the town of Farmville and basically live here for a couple of years, developing and building this park. And it takes a long time and a lot of equipment and going and coming to where I'm sure this is the reason why they're putting this whole process out there.
And this would be, the community input meeting is based on getting the feedback to move forward with one option, and we would put it through Smart Scale, which means it's not funded for 5 years out.
Any additional discussion at this time?
Just not on this subject. Can I bring something else up? Is it time for that yet?
Not yet, no. We got two more discussion topics before we roll into general. Next discussion is the comprehensive plan. Mr. Davis.
I need your feedback. I had asked for council to email me feedback on what were your biggest topics in the comprehensive plan that you wanted to talk about so I could schedule another joint meeting. Planning Commission has provided Ms. Austin their information of what they would like to talk about. I have not received anything from council to this date. And that was one of the things from the retreat that council wanted to do, and that is the comprehensive plan or review, an in-depth review, if I remember correctly. And so in order for staff to have a productive meeting, we need more than just sitting down with just a comprehensive plan and going page by page by page. That really isn't the best interest of individuals' time. So if you could get me that, the sooner the better, and then we can start trying to schedule those meetings in the next months out to have those discussions.
Thank you for the reminder. I just sent myself an email so I can work on that. Thank you.
Any other discussion on that at this time? Not hearing any. Next discussion topic is the employee compensation. Mr. Davis.
So I shared last meeting about hirings and that had been happening, and then also gave you an update on some loss in the number of police officers that we had had. Since that time, we're down 2 more, so now we are down 6 positions in the PD. Going into that, before, I guess it's been almost a month ago, we did an employee satisfaction survey, which is totally anonymous and is covered under our HR in regards to public information that is not accessible for public information purposes, dealing with employees. Because we wanted to truly get a feedback about different things other than what I'm going to talk about tonight in their profession, in the job that they do. And so we'll be working with the department on some of those other things that were brought up in that. However, one of the things that was very clear in that is the discussion about pay is a big issue for employees and how it ties to surrounding jurisdictions. One in that the starting pay has increased in the last year, higher than ours, and then what they are offering for certified officers to come. So that makes it that much harder in attracting. It's hard to attract in general these days for police officer positions. I can tell you 25 years ago when I applied, there was probably over 100 people for 2 positions. Chief, about 30-some years ago, I bet it was about the same for you. It's not the way today. It's not the case. Less people wanting the position, and you've got to be competitive for the position. We had a hiring expo a few weeks ago. We had 21 interested candidates. We had 9 that were given background packets. So far, 1 has passed the background and is given a conditional offer. The rest, I take that back, there's 1 other that is being considered. The rest did not make it through our background investigation. The key is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, we're one of the only ones that probably have not lowered our standards, and we don't plan to. And we're maybe in some parts of this area that actually do a full in-depth background investigation. But it's beneficial for us as a community and for our department. And the person that is given the conditional is non-certified. A non-certified officer is not ready to be on their own for at least 10 months. So we have 1 in the academy now. So that's not one of the vacancies because I can't count him as a vacancy because he's actually an employee. So if you take that one because he's not on the street, we're 7 short. And there is 5 on a shift in patrol. So we're 1 shift short. And I know we started this budget year to where we were not going to give raises. We were covering everyone's insurance increase. Fully aware. We didn't know what, obviously budget-wise, we did not have those funds. But one of the things that has been brought up is we have, we put into savings, into contingency, $270-some thousand, $240, thank you, Julie, that we had planned to use for a fitness court. So we set it aside and we said we'd come back and we would do a sidewalk study. We've committed to that. So that's there. And then we still have $158,000 sitting there. So one of my suggestions coming to council is looking at giving employees an increase in the middle of a budget year. That's not typically what I do. To put us at $51,000, if you look at the last 2 pages in your packet, and then I'll go back to the beginning ones in a minute to share some information about surveys that our HR department did in a relatively quick period of time, and thankful for those localities that answered us in a very timely fashion. If you look at the first one, I'm not a fan, I think all of you know and the employees know, of giving one group a raise and not including others. So I have included everyone. If you look at the top left, that is other employees excluding police. I would suggest, this is my suggestion, not to fix it permanently, but this is my suggestion to fix it on an interim basis or assist in an interim basis, is that all employees receive $1,000 salary increase. Then if you look to the right, that the police department get a $2,000 increase across the board for this budget year. It's broken down of FICA, increase in retirement, all those types of things. If you look in the bottom left, the total cost, the general fund would have to come up with $160,269.93. Other funds that's attributable is because we have employees outside the police department that are budgeted also in the general fund, but the water, the sewer, and those places. But they can cover their costs. So the main cost that we really have to cover is the 160 out of the general fund, the 160,269. And if you look below that, the potential payment options are, there's 158,000 instead of doing a pickleball court that we had talked about. You need $2,000 more to make this happen after that, in essence. $2,269.93 to be exact. Our contingency fund, which is based off prior year, is at a nice area of $586,533, which we've worked towards that, obviously, to have that savings. But we do plan that we would have an overage in this year's budget from part-time employees. So that's some part-time officers' use in the police department, but also in what we had budgeted in covering, without knowing whether we would have a public works director or not, in covering someone working part-time to assist, which is not needed any longer in this budget year. So that's how you get the $148,920, which would be my recommendation to come up with that other $2,269.93. Now, if you wanted to be really generous to the police department, you could fix the problem, if you go to the next page, for the full year. This is not my suggestion in the middle of a budget year, but in order to get us at a minimum starting salary for uncertified at 51, you would have to do an 8.5% increase across the board. That's expensive. And then you're only still able to give the other employees $1,000, which is not in the fairest of it at all. So I can go into that further, but that just gives you some numbers of what that looks like. If you would, just indulge me for a few more minutes. If you go back to the other bigger pages. The first page is labeled Police Starting Salary Survey. So these are departments that answered our request. So ours is at the top, highlighted in pink, magenta, whatever you want to call it, under those headings. And then these are the places that answered our survey. You'll notice that for us, the police recruit is at 4714. Bedford hires at 48. I'll pick out some of the higher ones, not the lower ones. How's that? South Hill hires at 54. Front Royal at 50 and some change. Christiansburg at 52 and some change. Cumberland is at 50. Prince Edward's at 50. Buckingham's at 49. Amelia's at 54. Now that's a little of an outlier because they do border Chesterfield County. Nottaway's at 53. Lunenburg's at 51.5. If you go to certified police officers, you'll see our number, but there's a note section to these, okay? So you got to take into account that there's a base and then what we would offer for years of service of credit, right? So what we've been doing is $350. There's some places that I'll pick on Middletown. They say they'll pay $49 and with less than a year and up to $55 with one to 3 years of experience. South Hill uses a step program of 2.5%. And you can read those. I'm not going to go through all of them. And then we broke it down into other positions in the localities like us. What a corporal makes beginning salary, a sergeant at the bottom of the starting of the scale for sergeant, lieutenant, detective, and so on. The next page is a mid-range. And you'll notice as we move further, the places did not provide as much information to us the more we asked to provide. So then you see what the mid-range of their salary scale is for those positions. And then if you go to the next one is a max. And this is for you all to take back. I'm not looking for a decision this evening, obviously. And so you have some of those with what the max is on their pay scale. And then the last one you'll see is salaries, actual salaries for positions that they have with the people and their years of service in those positions and where we compare. I mean, the worst thing we could do is go back to compression and not and just raise the minimum and not raise throughout. We're only hurting ourselves in the long run. So what I'm asking you all tonight is review this information. Review the dollars and cents that I provided you. And if at all possible, next week we could have a further discussion about this at the regular meeting to maybe hopefully have some type of resolution or decision. That would be great. Or if you need more time, then we can discuss it the following month. But in some ways, we need to attract people and we need to help the people that are here that have been working a lot of overtime to fill these spots. You have detectives working patrol to fill spots, part-time people. Eventually people burn out. And so it's a lot right now for you, so I don't anticipate any questions, but if you do, I'm welcome any of them. But I would like to carry on that discussion further next week after you've had some time to digest it.
Could we get a cost of what we spent in overtime for the last 6 months?
Yeah, it wouldn't be for probably the last 6 months. If you did it that way, it'd be a lot less than if we did it over since the budget started in July.
That's fine, either way. I just wanted to see, wanted to see what those 5 positions are costing us on a daily basis.
We can do it 6 months and then a shorter period of time. We can do both. Give you an idea.
When we hire new officers that go through training, we pay for that, correct? Or
We do, but they sign a 3-year agreement that if they leave, then each year that they're here, they have to pay back less.
okay, that's what I was coming to.
With your first plan, it looks like a new officer will be starting at 53,014, is that right?
No, it would be 51.
51,014, this one?
Yes.
So is that gonna, will that recruit a certified officer?
No, that's at the 8.5%. The 2,000 is only going to raise it $2,000 in mid-year. The goal would be to get to the 51 in next year's budget.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, I'm giving you what it would do, what it would take to get to that, but I'm not suggesting that in mid-year. What I'm suggesting is to get to,
So this would only bring them, mid-year would only bring them to $49,014, right?
correct.
Well, we're not gonna get anybody. Let's be frank.
It will help us get hopefully certified, because then we can add money to that to get certified officers. That'll be beneficial to us.
Who's gonna come here if they're
Before-
making $50,000 elsewhere? Tell me that.
No, certified, we get the 49 plus however many years on top of that.
So it's $350 per year on top of the 49.
Of their experience.
Yeah, based on their experience. I'm also willing at this point to offer them, if they come with 3 years, what an officer makes here that's been here 3 years.
So give me an example.
Let's look on the Back page, on the very last page, police officer that's been here almost 3 years, 2.65, 5311.
Okay.
Can we also think about an uncertified officer starting at the salary we're saying, but also when they get certified, they still get an increase? And we'll discuss the increase as we move forward, as some of the other departments do.
Then you're gonna have compression if you don't raise everybody else.
I'll make the comment, I understand what you're saying, but if our other end of the spectrum are already at the middle, and I say middle because I don't know whether that'd be middle, high, or low. I think right now we are more concerned with getting police officers to come in and go to work. The upper end seems, in my opinion, seems to be somewhat in the middle of pay now. Not, I won't say middle, I'll say they're in the hunt, for lack of. I'm more concerned about trying to get new officers in. Once we can get that, we can go back and look at it again, but do we have to do it all at one time to where we take such a hit? Can we not wait till next fiscal year to address, say from, and I'm just using the example, say from captain up, the upper echelon of the police department? I don't know how that would affect morale, but I'm looking at this from a financial situation of where we are financially. I think compression would not be the end of the world right now. Not.
I think it will for morale purposes. If you raise, if what I'm hearing is correct, if you raise the minimum and you don't give anybody else in the department an increase, it would be a huge morale decrease again. I mean, they're going to have the feeling of you don't care about them. You're just trying to get somebody in the door who doesn't have the experience I have here. I'm just as important as the person coming in the door, if not more.
I understand that aspect of it, and I respect that. No question about it. But with us being short on officers, and I say officers, not lieutenants, captains, sergeants, detectives, the whole 9 yards. I'm not saying I want to shortchange them, but we're in my humble opinion, we're in a financial crisis all of a sudden that we haven't planned on. We didn't anticipate. I find it very challenging personally. I find this information that you've given us tonight overwhelming. And I know you're giving us time to digest it and look it over and try to decide. But I also know that I want the utmost safety for the town of Farmville, hands down, no question about it. But I also think that we need to be seriously considering what we are giving, what we're doing to the citizens of the town of Farmville to give them the biggest bang for their buck as far as their tax dollars are paying for this. So I think we need to be very diligent to make sure that we find the money, do what's necessary, and not get carried away, because I think this is going to continuously erode us away and cause us to spend more and more money. Not that we don't need it. I'm 100% in agreement. If we're 5, 6, 7 officers short, we got a problem. But is it all money? Could be other issues other than money as well.
That was my piggyback on that. You said you did an employee survey. Well, who developed this survey?
HR did.
HR did? So how many questions were on the survey? How many, did all the employees participate in this?
All but 2, yes ma'am, all but 2. One was out for family reasons.
Did it deal with morale?
Yes ma'am.
What were some of the answers of it? Do you mind coming up here and talking about it?
You really want to bring that in public, that we've said that it's anonymous?
Well, I mean, I would like to know about the morale, to be
It's
honest.
still anonymous. I mean, we're not calling out any names. I would love, and I'm not trying to
I mean, I would
hide
love to know
anything,
about the morale here.
but I would like, if need be, we can go in closed session if we can legally do it, to discuss it.
I mean, I would like to know about the morale, to be honest. If we've got officers leaving, I mean, what's so wrong to ask about that? I mean,
I can get you that information.
okay.
Are we okay to talk to, Chief, are you willing to give your opinion on where we need to be? And, I mean, he's the one that's in the trenches.
And we've been in conversation. This is, we've had this conversation for a while now.
I've got a question. I understand if you don't give the same raise to all the officers, I happen to agree with that. How about the employees who are non-police officers only receiving $1,000? Is there going to be angst amongst them that, similar to the angst that you might, if you didn't give all police officers a raise? What's that going to do to that morale? Or do you feel like it would do anything?
I think it would be a lot worse if they got nothing and we did just the police department. I was trying to find a middle of the road to help soften some of the things for the police department, but also not leave out the other employees. Until we can get to a full budget year to make those changes.
I still want to circle back to the certification. And I understand what you're saying about being compressed with it, but this is part of our problem. If you're coming in at 50, 51, and you're staying there until we decide you get a raise, that's a problem. But you're coming in, you're getting certified, and you're getting that increase. That's just one person getting it. So we don't have 20 people getting an increase in 1 year. But I still think it's just something we need to look at, because most departments, that's what they do. If you're uncertified, you go in at one salary, and then if you get certified, you get a two-step or something like that increase. It doesn't have to be something really high, but it's just something to show them we do appreciate them by going to school and getting a certification.
And I have a question on that. Is that a certification when they finish school, or is that when they, because now we're also paying 2 officers to ride together at once. And, so a bump then when they get their certification, but then they're driving by themselves in another year. I mean, what's the deal with that? I mean, just
no, it's not
spitballing.
It's not another year. I hear what Mr. Hunter's saying, but I also think it shouldn't be out of just the academy. If council's looking at that, I would suggest that you do it after they've completed their full FTO, that they're going to be
I have no problem with that.
Fully trained and released.
I have no problem with that.
This is just, so I'll touch, you've asked a question about some of the things, morale. One of the other things that is that there's not a lot of opportunity, obviously, we're a small department, for promotions. So the only way to enhance yourself is to wait for a promotion. One of the things that they would like and suggest, some of the suggestions was looking at specialty. So when they say specialty, they mean canine. That's a very expensive venture. And how often will we actually use a canine in the town of Farmville? So you got to ask those questions, right? But you're listening to what the employee's saying. One of the suggestions was a warrant team periodically getting together, and there's a group that goes out and serves warrants. Well, one of the things that I've thought of that actually is better than those is an actual career development program. There's a lot of mid-size to larger departments that have a career development program. Yes, it costs money to implement and stay. I was part of one at one time. There was 3 levels. There was senior officer, master officer, and career officer. And at each level, there were different things that you had to achieve and maintain in order to keep that status as in the career development. And for each step you got, it was a 3% increase.
And we had.
There's a catch-22 to that too, though. And if you play the game smart, you go through the career development and not the eager beaver and try to get promoted, because that's only 5% each step for promotion. You go career development, you can get 3%, 3%, 3%. Oh, sergeant's position comes open, you get another 5%. I've been places you can't solve that problem. That piece of compression is hard to solve because somebody has decided to be smarter and go that route, whereas somebody might have said, well, I just want to be a supervisor. I'm driven to be a supervisor. They go and become a sergeant. And they've been a sergeant for 5 years. And somebody goes in year 6 and now at master and says, oh, there's a sergeant's position, I'm going to apply for that. Well, they've gotten 6% and now getting 5%. It'll make more than the person that's already been a sergeant for 5. There's no real right way to solve that issue. But with career development, you do have an opportunity to help individuals in the department to where they don't feel like they're stuck. So there are options as we move forward in looking at things, but currently that can keep our workforce here. But currently the biggest obstacle is to get those, but also not affect the people that are deciding and have not left and are actually holding things together right now. So, that's my spiel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There are 3 levels, low, mid, high. And is that low, mid, high starting? You know, just for my curiosity, what's the process of somebody starts at the low point in their salary, and then there's a midpoint? What moves them from, since there is not as much room for advancement because of the number of positions we have, what moves them from the low point in the salary to the mid to the high?
You talking about the pay scale?
Yes.
Raises.
No, but then in that situation, we're raising the low with the mid and the high. But what could move you from the low to the mid to the high? Is there a way for us to move them without moving their position? You know what I'm saying? I mean, is that the starting period?
I may be wrong, but I think you're referring to an actual raise as far as during their
individuals raises.
Yes.
Individuals raises. They can be given an individual move from when evaluations are done, they move from the low scale to the mid scale.
No, that's a scale to show where your pay is in the pay scale. Am I at the low, mid, or the high part of the pay scale for comparison purposes? But your pay gets increased as we give pay increases.
When was the last time the police department got any type of pay increases of any kind?
The same as every other employee, which was last budget year.
Was it done across the board or just individually?
Yeah, we did an across the board raise for everybody. No, it wasn't 2%. It was a dollar figure, but I don't remember what that was that year. I know in 3 years the town gave $10,000 in raises across the board.
And they've all been dollar amounts, not percent
because
increase.
we did that. If you remember, for the purpose, the lower wage folks don't get the same out of percentages. And we were trying to get the lower wage folks up above 15 and closer to the 20 mark, if you remember.
I think,
And if it hadn't been for insurance, we would have done a pay increase this year.
What is the numbers now? Are we still above the?
102. We need that until September the 30th. So hold your breath.
I think that I realize that we give raises to everybody, but there is a scale of, like you said, low to high. And I'm just going to throw a number, 47 to 54. Just how do they move from making 47 while they're in that pay scale to 49 without us giving them a raise? Do they get raises based on evaluations? Do people get raises based on anything? And I'm talking, this is the whole town, technically.
We haven't done that yet. We just implemented this past year a new evaluation system. The ultimate goal is eventually to give everybody a cost of living raise and then do a raise based on your evaluation. But we hadn't been able to do that in a while because our evaluation system was horrible.
And that's what I was asking. Thank you.
But the pay scale itself does move when the town gives an overall raise.
But the whole pay scale moves, not a person in that pay scale.
Correct.
That's what I'm asking.
Correct.
And you're working on that, so thank you. That's what I was getting at.
So your department heads' salary is different from your regular workers in the other fields?
Yeah, I mean, y'all adopt a pay scale every year. So you have, there's 1 through 20. So 1 is lower paid and 20 is higher paid.
But that's also based off of years of service too, am I correct?
No, it's all based on position.
Position only?
It's all based on the
Okay.
position and the duties of those positions.
Okay.
My thought process is this: if we go with your lowest recommendation, I just don't think it's enough. I'll be honest with you. That's my thought. I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say. I won't be here next week, so I want to hear what people have to say.
We always want to do as much as we can do, but the situation we're in right now, I guess we have to digest it and figure out what's the best number to go forward with.
And let me clarify too, just to make sure I haven't crossed over the bridge. I mean no disrespect to the upper end of the police department in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I am addressing this not solely at them, but from a financial perspective, and that only. Nothing to do with them or their performance, or to be misinterpreted that I'm trying to shortchange them. I'm trying to come up with ideas on ways to be able to find a way to make this work.
I'm not sure, given the dearth of the numbers, that anybody's going to be able to give you their definitive on what they're going to do this evening, unless I'm mistaken. I think there's going to need to be some digestion, but you guys are, of course, we are gladly not in the state of Florida, so the sunshine laws do not apply to us. Y'all can call each other and just one-on-one. Yeah, don't get any group chats going.
Could I make one comment to Ms. Amos's thoughts? I understand where you're coming. You'd like to see us hit that 51 mark just because you think that's going to be competitive. But if we don't, to me, in this year, I don't think I can see going to the 8% because it's, again, that's going to be increase the gap between that and every other employee. I think that would be disappointing for others to see the police get an 8% raise, they get 1,000. That's just my thought.
I see how we can do it. We get rid of that firehouse. Then we give everybody money. We get rid of an unnecessary firehouse.
The only problem with that is that we raise taxes for the public on that. And so if we raise taxes to do a firehouse, what are we going to do with the money? We can't go to the public and say, oh, we just didn't do the firehouse. We just gave raises.
I'd like to enter into this conversation
Please
now.
do.
I have thought long and hard, and I was going to wait till our comment period to talk about this, but I personally think this, I've given this, I got a headache over it, I'm not going to lie, but these finances are dire to us, and I think, personally, I think we're headed in the wrong direction from a financial responsibility standpoint. That's just my opinion, nobody else's but mine. But in thinking about this, what Ms. Amos just touched on, I would like to follow through with in the fact that, and I've thought long and hard about this, if we were to hold off on financing that fire department right now for 4 years, and I'm saying 4 years because that's when we're supposed to be supposedly getting the fire truck itself. In 4 years' time, I'd like to think that we could come close, if not completely pay for that fire truck, to where then we can come back and look at the financing of the fire department building so that we do not dig ourselves even deeper in debt. Right now, we're looking at roughly $16 million, give or take, according to Davenport. They want 16.1 is what they want to ask for. Whether that's what we need is yet to be determined because we don't have the final cost estimates yet. But yet with that, we are going deeper and deeper in debt. I would like to talk about it openly. I'd like to ask some questions that I would like some answers for by next session before we make a decision whether we move forward with this or not. And if you wanted to, I'm good. But I want to at least talk in the open about the possibility of not going $13 million in debt for a fire department building at this present time. I'm not saying that we don't need to possibly do it, but the timing is horrific. I think if we were to look at our current debt right now, which I'm not sure what it's at, but I'm guessing 12 million. I don't know for sure.
Can I talk about that?
Well, let me finish first, and you're welcome to. Okay, and no disrespect with that comment whatsoever. We need to be able to be financially responsible. We have debt. We're digging our debt deeper than what we've been in a long, long time. I'd like to know when was the last time we were this deep in debt, and without the firehouse project and the ladder truck, and with the fire truck and the firehouse ladder truck. I'd like to do some comparisons on figures to see how much of a debt we can carry and be able to survive. Just like right now, we're in a crunch for money for salaries. Now, shame on me, shame on us for not thinking about putting it in the budget, whether we use it or not, an increase on salaries. I have to admit, in my mind, I think that's a shortfall on us not to anticipate possibly having to give pay raises. I don't know why I never thought about it, but it just didn't really hit home with me until now. Of course, we got an emergency. Now, I won't say emergency, but we've got dire situation with our police department. So therefore, we've got to give out a lot of money. So why not try to be financially responsible for 4 years and try to reduce our debt before we go even deeper in debt? Just my thoughts. I'm just talking. I'm more than willing to listen to everybody and anybody. And if you don't want to talk about it and you think I'm on the wrong track, tell me, and it'll be no hard feelings whatsoever. And I welcome your comments, Mr. Davis.
And I'm going to touch on that for just a second. I know that we had a previous bond payment that I think started in 2012, and we are just finished or about to finish. Is that correct? And to be able to put a chunk of that aside to cover the fire truck and help with salaries and things like that and then have money put aside. Me personally, I don't want to use that scares me to use the contingency fund for salaries. That is, for me, that's like not an option. Look at the horrible rain we had the other night when we were here and washed out the culverts. Where does that money come from? It comes from wherever Dr. Davis can pull it and does a great job with that. But some of it might have to come from contingency. We might have an issue where we need $500,000 from the contingency to do something. And I would rather build the contingency fund than a little bit more than to pull from it for something like that. But that's just, holding off for 4 years or whatever everybody, if everybody comes up with an agreement on something like that. I know it's rough, and I know the fire department needs some work and needs some TLC, but I'm fairly in agreement with Mr. Parrott.
Mayor, could I make a comment about?
Yes, sir.
So we don't have $13 million. You had made the comment about cut the firehouse. That doesn't do any good for raises because we have to borrow that money. In all respect for Mr. Parrott, we are in no way in dire financial issues. We were in more debt when I stepped in the front door of Town Hall in October of 2017 than we are today by millions of dollars. The bond, and we'll get some numbers because she doesn't have them on her right now. But the bond that we're paying off this month in October, will finish the general fund portion of that bond. There's still a water portion of that from a water tank, I believe it was. The water fund pays that piece of the bond. The same money that we've been making this payment for the last whenever it was refinanced in 2012. The same amount of money that we're making that payment now, and that debt is gone, is the same debt payment that we will be taking for 20 years on a fire station. No new debt. Same debt as far as dollars and cents.
But you're extended in another 20 years.
For a building that is built in 1991 for a volunteer fire department, when the council made a commitment to having a combination fire department, meaning full-time and volunteers, that department, that building is not adequate by any means. Even if we were still just volunteers, it is not adequate for a female firefighter in that building. It is not adequate for the safety of those individuals and the contamination on their equipment. It is not, what we're doing now is planning for the future. We're going to build something that will be for us in years to come. We shouldn't be in the business of building something and doing something when you're looking at capital investments for today. We should be doing capital investments for people 20 years from now. And that's what this is. This is an investment in the people of this town's public safety beyond tomorrow or 4 years from now. And the price of that is only, I can give you an example. We built a courthouse where I was. In 2013, That was $9 million. And I'm talking about a huge courthouse. We're already talking about not even a quarter of that building being $13 million. That, from 9 million to 13 and a quarter of the size. In 4 years, we already saw the projections. The guy's telling us, and the architect, how many months ago? It was over $1 million a year. So we're gonna have even more then than what if we do it now. And the need is now. We've got firefighters that are living in a meeting room.
From those comments, I would like to respond. There is one variable that I personally was not aware of that complicated things, in my humble opinion, was the fact of when we hired female firefighters, which I'm not singling them out by any means, but we did not anticipate having to be able to have multiple shower rooms, one male, one female. Now, currently, they are taking a shower in the multi-use shower. Well, yes, but they lock the door behind them when they go in, and they are able to take a shower. So therefore, that variable was not, in my mind, was not accountable when we originally made this decision to do it. I did not realize that we were going to have male and female firefighters, which short-sighted on my side, because it's definitely an evolving world now, which is fine. I have no problems with that. But why can't we, you reference the fire department being in such a disarray, well, not disarray, but needing updating. Let's look at our town shop. Doesn't that need updating? Probably worse than the fire department does. I'm just commenting.
I want to comment, you talk about different things, Farmville Police Department and dispatch, I want to go back to raises and stuff. They've always stood out as a model of excellence. Elite department that I wrote this down, that others have admired and wanted to join. And that reputation did not happen by accident. It was built on decades. You talked about decades of the fire department, of commitment, professionalism, and pride in serving this community. As a council, we carry the responsibility of preserving that standard. To do so, we must support our employees not only with words, but with the resources that they need to succeed. Competitive compensation is essential for Andy to recruit, retain, and lead the best of the best. We have been the best of the best for decades. By investing in our people, we protect the legacy of excellence that has defined Farmville for generations and ensure it continues well into the future. So what do we have, a competition between the fire department and the police department now? Well, I still stand by that I'm fighting for the police department right now. So I want money for the police department. That's where I'm standing.
I see there's two separate issues. I think that if we stray from the plan on the fire department, I think we're kicking the can down the road, thinking that maybe there will be better things in the future, but we don't know what the future might be. I think we've proven that we can handle that debt level. The amount of the annual payment, if that's correct, is the same. I don't see there's a lot of risk. You get credit ratings by borrowing money and paying it back. If that's a true conclusion, I think that we need to stay on the same track.
The rating we have never had before. We've gotten to this point to go to a credit rating because of how we worked to reduce our debt, build our contingency. The contingency was never this way in the past.
We made a decision like this back in 2004 when it was introduced to get the town employees on the state retirement plan and the benefits, the VRS. And that council then, and it wouldn't have cost us but a few $1,000s, because I remember correctly. And that council then decided, well, no, let's wait a few years. And that few years tripled the price of us joining VRS, if not quadrupling. So it's just something to think about. I mean, we save $2,000 a day, $2 million a day for $6 million in 4 years. That's not us doing our due diligence. That's just my opinion.
I was thinking about the debt service we're currently paying off at 1.1 million, which would be the debt service we would start to pay on the firehouse. And I asked, does anybody know what that debt service was for?
If my memory serves you correct, it was for the lease of police vehicles.
Motley?
Motley Lake? Could have been Motley Lake, sure enough.
Motley Lake.
Yep. Yeah, it was. He's right. You're 100% right.
So what we're looking at, like there's some, discussion here about looking back on this and saying, what was that debt service we paid for? And people would see a firehouse that served public safety in our town, that benefited our residents, that showed a commitment to the future. I mean, Mr. Elder, I'm not trying to steal his thunder from earlier, but he was talking about sidewalks, and we talk about this town, and we have to think about further than tomorrow. It's really easy in our positions to say we don't want to deal with the burden or the weight of it because it's easier to shed it. But somebody later is going to have to deal with it. So if you kick the can down the road, somebody eventually has to pick that can up and deal with it. This was, I've seen conversations about the craziest things, conflating this to national debt, which is not even remotely a similar conversation because we're talking about bonds that are tax exempt, that exists outside of that sort of thing. We do a balanced budget that's transparent. You see where the money goes, and you will see that building if it happens. National debt is a completely different thing, where the government prints money and just throws it around. This does not happen here. Structurally, we started this conversation a long time ago, before I was even mayor. When I was on council, we started this conversation about moving to that full-time fire force, and we finally, in this budget year, got the last firefighter to make it 24-hour service. The contamination aspect is something I think about often, having a space that serves those individuals who have dedicated themselves to keeping the community safe and fighting fires that may come to structure fires or to businesses or to residents. And it seems like doing them the solid of having a good decontamination bay is beneficial. That's not to say one department is being favored over the other by any stretch. I mean, we're up here talking about this because we all care deeply about our police force and what's happening currently. This is the second time in my short tenure that we've had this conversation about the police force. It continues to happen. It's going to continue to happen. There's always a jockeying for who has the best base pay or who has the best benefits. And I think this town will continue to fight for that. But I don't think that, in my personal opinion, that you sacrifice the future because it's in my estimation, it's our job to think intergenerationally.
I solely made this comment because I just wanted to start a dialogue to see if there was any interest. I'm not trying to play one against another. I want both to succeed and flourish. Let me be clear on that. I support both of them. I support the town. That's the my primary goal with my comments are, I am trying my best to look out for the town of Farmville's taxpayers' money to try to get the biggest bang for the buck. I'm not trying to divide anybody against anything or any entity whatsoever. I just wanted to have an open conversation. I did not really think that we get into endorsing one entity over another or one project over another. I find that a little bit challenging, but I just wanted council itself to possibly think about it. And if you don't want to, I'm fine with that. I don't have any problems at all. I'm not going to hold any animosity against anybody. I'm fine. If you want to continue on, so be it. I just wanted to discuss it.
And I would say that's, I like the discussion. It's been very educational for everyone, and learning where the money is going and stuff like that it helps.
And this is why we're here, to make those hard decisions and not to take anything personal.
Do we have any other further discussion at this time on this topic? I'm sure we will be revisiting it, but yeah. We'll come back next week and probably have the same discussion again. Mr. Davis, you have town manager's report. Mr. Hardy, I'll go around the table.
I'm good right now, thanks. I think I've talked enough.
Mr. Hunter.
Just want to thank everybody for participating tonight.
Mr. Yoel.
Well, let's change the subject. Listen, I don't know if there's anything. Let's go for something lighter. It's come to my attention from a lot of constituents and citizens in my ward and outside my ward that there's some concern over the new streetlights. I don't know if we can do anything about it, but I just wanted to bring this up because it's probably going to be something we have to deal with down the road. They're very bright, they're very cool, they're affecting people's sleep, they're affecting my sleep because people are calling me. And my suggestion is that we look into the idea of, I hate to say this because nobody likes regulations and ordinances, but I was wondering if there's any possibility we could do something to get, when they replace the streetlights, to get Dominion to use a specifically warmer bulb that still provided the lumens, which is the brightness, and we had consistency throughout the town, but not something that is like we're in an airport or a Walmart or Spotlight or something like that. I'm just wondering if we can do a little bit of research and see if there's something down the road that maybe helps us out and gets me some sleep.
So I attempted to have the lady that does that, Leslie, with Dominion Power, here for this meeting. She could not make it. I'm trying to set it up to where she can be here for the October work session. She and another person at the Small Towns Conference at Longwood gave the presentation about streetlights. She's talked to staff already. There is a way to do that, I think, of what you're saying, but it's on our dime. If we want to replace the lights ourselves instead of them doing it as they become not fixable and doing that. But I'll save that presentation for her if she can be here, and hopefully she can be here for the October work session. But I attempted that this month.
Thank you.
Mr. Barrett.
I got laryngitis now.
Mr. Dwyer.
Not a thing, Mayor.
Mr. Reed.
Not a thing.
Ms. Davis.
No.
I don't have anything either. This has been a good session. And likewise, I appreciate, as Mr. Hunter said, everybody's participation because these are weighty subjects, and so I appreciate you giving them their time. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you.